Welcome back to Site Tech Intermountain Siteworks training videos. In this video today I want to do an infield design on a job site that we're going to grade out and actually get ready for asphalt, but there is no design. I also want to show it to you for two reasons. One is if you didn't have your own design, and one is if you had your own design but the concrete guys had poured it and missed, the elevation to where your model doesn't match. I want to show you how to use just your Siteworks to make the new model and not have to throw it in CAD and get back and running really fast. We're up here above Salt Lake City. There's the Great Salt Lake out there, or what's left of it. We are going to take this road that they've already kind of placed most of the road base in just close. And we are going to as-built the edge of this road to create our own model on both sides right here. We do know from the set of plans that we've got a 2% crown in the middle here. Now, I intentionally picked this intersection right here just to show you that the actual drain boxes haven't been completely formed in, but there's enough curb there at all those junctions right there to be able to build through. But this one section right here does not have the radius around here. Intersections are already challenging enough when you don't have Trimble Business Center or any sort of CAD program, but we're going to as-built that side of the road all the way up over and this side of the road and build the crown. And then I'm going to show you how to still use the stakes that are here to actually build in theory what the concrete should be. I understand in this scenario they may still pour the concrete and be off, but at least if your crews need to get going, I'm going to show you how to use your offset option and vertical offset option to shoot in that curb line right there. The other thing to keep in mind here when you're doing this is this all was slip formed in with a machine. It's all pretty straightforward. They didn't have to hand form it. Everybody does a little bit different. So what I've learned is do not shoot every seam. If you shoot every seam or half a seam, you're creating a point that's going to triangulate straight across, and it's going to possibly make it chattery and jumpy for the grader hand or dozer or whatever you're using. So if you've got a pretty straight grade here that doesn't have a lot of highs and lows, I would go every other joint, just in my experience. You can do it however you want, but take enough to where you're getting the grade. Same with like this side. Even though the road's going up, that's not the issue. You just need to make sure that if you're doing a road that has a drain box or a high point, that you do get a shot on the high and low point. There's not a lot of ups and downs, and it's pretty consistent. I'd go every other joint. What I've got here is we got our base set up. I do not have a calibration for out here. This job site, I'm gonna just go ahead and shoot my base pull in, and I'm gonna create a 1-point calibration right here to get started. As long as I put that back in the same spot every day, it's gonna be relative. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is I've already got my base running. I've got the job site set up. I went ahead and just created a dummied in job site that's a Salt Lake City hillside road design, and I've got a work order that's edge of pavement, ELP as built, no design. Let's go ahead and hook up to our GPS. I'm going to go GNSS, I'm going to go Rover, Bluetooth. I'm going to scan for my device because I've got quite a few in that list there. Okay, 1438. Radio and receiver, 19 is what I'm running on. It is base point, and I am going to use my quick release, and I am going to use tilt compensator, but I'm going to leave it off because I still got to do a 1-point cal. I do want to calibrate. I'm leveled up. I'm going to change my default numbers to 5,000, 1,000, and 100. I'm going to measure this point in real quick for about 15 seconds. Okay, I am going to save my base location in case I got to get back here. So now we are good to go with on the icon. What I'm going to do is turn on my tilt compensator real quick though. Turn that on, hit accept. Once that IMU sensor is on, we're good to go. Check my batteries. So one thing to note here is as we go into this intersection down here, what I want to do is I want to offset over from this side over here. I'm going to offset over to my crown line, not knowing exactly how wide the road is and what high side is the higher side. I'm actually going to shoot a line string from side to side because what I want to know is I want to know what side is the higher side just so I make sure that I offset from the correct side. Okay, so I'm going to shoot a line string really quick from one side to the other, just so I verify exactly how wide the road is and what the higher side is, just to make sure that I am shooting my offset line as I make this curb to my crown from the correct side, so I get the elevation right. You don't want to offset from both sides. So once I've shot a line string, I'm going to hit measure. Then what I'm going to do is check and see how wide that is. So line information, it's 35.9, basically 36. So we're going to go 18 feet to the crown in the middle. What I do want to know also is how wide, or excuse me, what the elevations are. So I'm going to turn on point elevation right here, and just to see, to make sure that it's not way off. So we've got a 37 on my side and a 27 on that side, which is good because I'm going to offset this from this side to that center line, and that's what I want to do. And then on the other side, I'll just create a break line to surface it out. So now that I'm good there, I'm going to just delete this line out and get rid of it and its points. So just for the sake of this video not being super long, I'm not going to shoot all this in. I'm just going to do this section to show you how you would do it, and you could carry on at that point. So from here, I'm going to build the model from here back to about that connex. So to get started with advanced measurements, if you don't have advanced measurements, it's not the end of the world. You can create a break line and then offset it in Kogo. But I have advanced measurements, so I'm going to go in, I'm going to go to new line, and I'm going to call this EOP new, just to make sure. I'm going to leave it as a break line because I am going to surface this out with my data collector. I'm going to hit accept, but on the screen here, I've got this icon that has two dotted lines and a solid line from one side. That's my horizontal offset. That's where I'm going to say, okay, I want to make a new line as I shoot this one to the center of the actual road here, and I'm going to say to my right because that's the way that I'm walking, and I want to make sure this is a 2% up. I have options over here for different, but I'm going to put it on slope, so it's on percent, 2% to the crown, and I'm going to hit accept. So all I got to do now is basically shoot a point, and I'll turn the elevations back off so we don't see that the whole time. And as I start walking, you'll see a line to my right side, basically creating that center line for me. So we're just going to walk down through here. Remember what I said about these shots is you can go every other joint or a little bit further if you need to. You need to make sure that you get what's here and a good representation of the elevation, or there's no reason for what you're doing. But don't get too many or you're going to create problems for yourself. I've just experienced it myself where I've taken so many shots, and if they aren't relatively straight across from each other, the way the data collector surfaces it out creates a chattery model. So at this intersection here, I'm going to continue to project my crown line through here because they still have to have that 2% from center line to get the water from there to come down. On the other side, when we do those radiuses, I'm not going to project to the middle, at least on the radius part, and I'll show you how to put that together after. On these bends though, where it does bend a little bit, this is a situation where you might want to take just a little bit extra. On a vertical bend, a horizontal bend, well, you name it, just, you're thinking outside the box to do this, but you got to make sure that you're still practical. Basically, think in digital string lines. Think of everything you're doing as if you were standing here holding the string and another guy was holding the string on the other side, and you were checking grade that way. Your rover is going to make those digital string lines. So I'm just going to jump over from edge to edge of this box. Now, like I said, for the sake of this video not being too long, I'm not going to do this entire road. It goes a long ways down that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end right here. I'm going to end that line. I'm going to just start a new one. I'm going to go back into the roller stuck in the mud. And I'm going to make a new edge of pavement. So this is going to be EOP 2, but I'm not going to project to the middle with my offset line settings because I'm only going to have the one in the middle, or they're never going to match elevation-wise. So at this point, just make sure it's a break line. Do the same thing, and we'll shoot down, and I'll show you when you get to the radius, stop and make sure that you're not projecting anything in the middle. Work your way around it. Now, as soon as you get to the radius, you do want to start taking more. Don't take one every like 4 inches, but at that point, I just usually pick up and go a couple steps. Yes, it's still going to kind of make a little bit of a jog, you know, boom, 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 but you're still at least gathering the information and the elevation that's here. So I just usually go a couple steps, take a shot, couple steps, take a shot. Once you straighten out, if there's no other bends horizontally or vertically, you can go a little bit further. Now, same thing, as soon as I get to this bend right here, it's not as sharp as the other one, so I'm going to take maybe 4 steps. There's no real right or wrong here, just something that you'll learn what makes it good and what doesn't in the long run. So now that I started up another one, I'm going to project to the middle on this one. I'm going to do the same thing to my right, 18 feet. So on the other side, I just carried that break line all the way around. But this side, as I go back, I am going to create my 2% crown line to the middle, as you can see with the red line. There's both a lot of horizontal turn here, and it's also coming up quite a bit quicker. So at this point, I'm going to go every joint just for this last little section here. Now it's leveling out, so I'll go the last 2 before I get to the end here. And then what we'll do is I'll show you how to build this in as if the curb and gutter was going to be here. Like I said, the whole reason we were shooting what we're shooting is to make a model off of what's existing. At this point, we're just going to hope that they hit the mark. It seems like they have with a lot of other stuff. So what we'll do now is we're going to end. So I'm going to hit the menu and measure to end that line. And over here, we don't have an actual point there. So I'm going to come back to this one. And having known that, you can see I built the line a little bit further than I needed to. I'm actually going to delete out this point right here on the very end of it. Just make sure you don't delete the line. I'm going to take out the point. I'm going to delete that. What it's going to do is shorten it up. So now, looking at these stakes, that is a 3-foot offset to top, back, and curb, fill a 194. If I sit down and shoot on that, I can shoot it with a vertical offset option, but I can also horizontally offset it over. So I know that our curb and gutter right here, our lip of gutter, is about 0.35 lower than top, back, and curb. So I can actually shoot a line string right along this using those points and actually build my curb in at the exact same time. So how you do that is you got to go into your settings and enable something that may be turned off right off the bat. So if you go to your menu, go down to settings and go to measure. Right here, the second one up from the bottom says measure offset. That one is defaulted to disabled. I'm going to enable that. That reason for that is now I'm set up on here. I'm going to go to my roller stuck in the mud, which is my measure type, and I'm going to do new line, and you can see I've got some extra options in here. I'm still going to make a break line, but my vertical offset is going to be the number that you see on the screen right here. So at this point, I can put in a 194. So 1.94. Vertical offset, show every time, yes, because it's going to be a different number every time, and I can hit that. Now what I want to do is enable my offset settings. So right here, I know that this is 3 feet to back and curb, and then it's a 2.5-foot curb. So basically 2.5 plus 2. 5.5 is going to be my number, 5.5 to my right. But on the percentage here, I want to change that to elevation, vertical offset, and I want to put minus 0.35. So the reason for that is I'm making my line over, but so my offset line settings, but I'm also changing it in the other one. So I'm going to hit accept. Now I can go ahead and just verify that I'm good on this one, a 194, and I can hit accept, and it'll build me that shot right there. You'll see the line being built to my right side all the way off of the existing one that's here. So we're going to come all the way up here. We're going to go to the next top, back, and curb, which is not that one. we're going to come all the way up here and look at this one. So this one is a 3 foot to top back of curb, fill of 75. So because I left that one option on that asked me each time, all I got to do is level up and hit this and change that to a 0.75 and hit accept, and I've got it. So now I know that this is going to be a little bit jaggedy, a little bit chattery, if you will, around the corner, but we're just doing the best we can. This one is a fill of 92 to top back of curb, so I'm going to level up, and this is a 0.92, hit accept, and it'll be a little chattery, look like a stop sign, but at least we're establishing a grade out there. This one is a 0.96 fill to top back of curb, so we'll go 0.96 and hit accept. Same thing here, set up on all these hubs. This one laying on the ground, but it's a 0.95. So 0.95, boom. And then one more here. We're going to go set up here. And this one is a fill of 121. So there. So now there is a little bit of a gap right here, as you can see, in between this last stake and there. It's not a big deal if my last line point ends there and my next one picks up right there. It's okay because it'll just surface it together. So I'm done there. So now what I can do is turn off my line settings, go into the roller stuck in the mud, put this all back to 0 because I'm not doing any vertical offsets, and just leave it as a break line EOP new 7. And I'm not going to project to the middle because I already did that on the other side. So I'm going to turn this to no because I don't need it asking me every time. And now we just pick back up. And yes, there is, like I said, a gap there, but it will surface in between that. So now that I've gone forward, I'm going to set back and show you just on the screen here real quick. I do have a line on the back side right there that may get pulled into the surface, which is not a big deal. You can go ahead and delete it if you're worried about it, or you can just leave it in there and it will surface it, but it's not going to mess the middle of the surface up. So we'll just go ahead and go up here just past my truck and finish out the actual as-built. And then I'll show you how you can connect that center line if you want, or you can just leave it and let your grader guy or dozer guy or whatever they're using, skid steer, they might freehand it in. Some guys do not like using GPS in the intersections. My videos are not here to tell you exactly how to do it, like you have to do it this way is what I mean. They're intended to just give you the right steps, get you thinking outside the box, thinking of how you would do it, and each operator is a little bit different. I'm very aware of that. So just to square it out, I'll come all the way up and just end about where we started on the other side. All right, so to finish out a line, if you want, you can either start a new one or just hit menu and measure. So we are good to go. Zoom out, show you what I got. If you do want to actually delete that line on the back side, I'll show you how to do that just in case you want to. If you touch and hold on it, you can delete that line. And it'll say, are you sure you want to do this? You say yes, and also the points on it. Yes, you can get rid of those. That line is gone now. You don't have to worry about it. You can get rid of this point back here so it doesn't pull that in. Make sure it's not the line that you're doing, that it's the actual point. There we go. So if you wanted to connect that crown line to the middle there, you can go into Kogo. I'll show you a couple things. You can go into Kogo and you can go into create points and lines and arcs to create line and boundary. So you can leave this as a break line right there. It's always got to be a break line. And you could zoom in, tap that point. Whoops, free. You can come back off of that one and pick that point, and then you could come up here and either freehand, free click it, or if you had a point there in the middle. What I am going to do, since I don't have a point right in the middle of that intersection, but I've got two right there, I'm going to come into the Kogo right here, and I'm going to do create points and arcs. I'm going to come down to the create line and boundary. I'm going to leave it as a break line. I'm going to zoom out and look at those two, and I'm actually going to freehand a point there and a point there to create a line. Then what I'm going to do is close out of that and just view it that I've got two. So if I touch and hold on it, I've got two. It's the number 8. So go back into Kogo I'm going to review or create points and arcs, and I'm going to do midpoint of arc. So I'm going to use this midpoints of line arc, and I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to tap on that one, and I'm going to go that one. So that creates me a point right in the middle. So we're going to do measured point, and I'm going to say OK. Creates me a point. Then I can go back down to my create line and boundary, and I can go right off of that one, and I can go to that point, make sure it's a break line, hit accept, and I actually just right there in Kogo just made my own line string right down through the middle there. It might be off just a hair, so what you would have normally wanted to do is that other side down there actually make an offset line from there. But we're good to go there. Now all I need to do is surface this out and make a design, and then I can export to a machine. So in order to make a surface out of this in your data collector, all you do is go to your menu button, go down to data management, and you want to do surface as design. I'm going to create it in my data collector first. So I'm going to call this the hillside FG for finished grade. And I do want to include my line work. Here it says, do you not want to or do you want to? I want it to use my line work that I used along the edge so I see that. So I'm going to say OK. And right here, I don't need to define an outer boundary because I created a new work order, so it's the only points on my work order. That's why I do that intentionally. Now I can use outermost points. I can hit accept, and it makes me a design that is now in my design menu. If I go to project setup, change project, my design folder has hillside finished grade now. So I can go ahead and hit that and hit accept and load my design and look at it. I've got a design. If I move it over, it does look a little goofy because in here you can't snip the boundary, or excuse me, trim the edges up like you can in a CAD program. So it kind of pulled the triangulations on the backside, but no big deal. You can go in here and pull in because inside the actual model, it is still correct inside the two curb lines. So you can start viewing it. You can see that I've got the edge of pavement, and a crown line. And right here, we can go ahead and just zoom in a little bit onto this intersection. And you can see how it actually created really nice triangulation lines. And that reason why I also put that one in the middle there is you can see that it made a really nice move from each side of curb and gutter up and didn't have any weird triangulation there. That's intentionally why I created that one. So it looks like the elevation of that curb line over there where we built it in looks pretty dang good. Down through this road right here. Looks pretty good, so you can move it back over. If you need to start checking grade, you can put in your offset. We could go down to settings and put in our stakeouts or surface settings. We can go in there and put in a 0.35 below and hit accept. And this grade hasn't been built yet perfectly. They've just kind of brought some material in and got it rough. I don't have my flat foot on, so I just picked an actual rock right there. And right now we're at about a cut of 3/100. No big deal. Let's check a couple more spots right here. Set up on some rocks. Cut of 62. They intentionally left the crown a little bit low, I believe. Usually work your edges and then pull everything to the middle. Yep, they're about 3/10 low in the middle. Okay, so right off the edge of this concrete right here that we know is good, got about a cut of a 1/10. It's about right for what I'm seeing there. They don't have all the road base in right here. We can start checking a couple. Cut a 2/10. Cut a 2 right there. Come out here to the middle. Cut of a 1/10. Yep, all this just needs to be roughed around, but at least I can go and check my own grade now. And at least let the operator know where they're at. Now what I can do is take my thumb drive and I can export it to the machine. So now that I have a design running, all I got to do is put my thumb drive in, and I can go ahead and go to my menu. I can go down to data management, and I can go to export to machine, and I can change this to a design because I actually have a design running, and that's what's made in this data collector. And I can export to Earthworks right here. And this current design, active design, is hillside finished grade. So now what I do is just go ahead and hit accept. Data was saved successfully to the card. Once your model's built, you can go ahead and put it in the machines. Hopefully this helps with understanding how to make models with your data collector. There are certain limitations. There's certain things you cannot do. There's certain corners and edges and crown lines, break lines that are just hard to make in Kogo. Sometimes those are easier to throw out in Business Center or some sort of a CAD program, but hopefully this gets your wheels turning, making you think. It's kind of the same scenario for parking lots. I'm planning on making a video in the future for parking lots also, but thank you for watching this video. My name is Jeff Larson, Site Tech Intermountain Siteworks training videos.